Hey everyone, this is Steve Kik, Mortgage Loan Officer with LMCU and a West Chapter Leadership member of the MMLA, bringing you another episode of the MMLA Podcast, the MMLA Connect Podcast, I should say. Today I have Adam Tolley with me of Mortgage One. He is a Senior Loan Officer as well as a team leader. Adam, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Steve. Very excited to be here.
Great, man. Couldn't be more excited to have a fellow loan officer on the podcast. Finally, I don't think we've had anybody in production, so looking forward to having you on today and getting to know more about you.
We're the money makers, so you got to have us on.
Hey, you know what? You can't close a loan if you don't sell one in the beginning, right?
100%.
So, yep, for sure. We're definitely an important piece to the wheel here. So glad to have you on, man. Let's start off with, you're at Mortgage One right now, but tell us your mortgage story, your mortgage career, how you got into the business and how long you've been there.
Yeah, so I started in the banking retail world in 2012. I was at Fifth Third Bank in their mortgage servicing call center and hated that job 100%. Not the company, but the job was just awful. Call center was not for me. And the funny thing about that is my manager, when I was there, I'd asked to go to the retail channel in person, and she told me I would never make it in sales. So I always go back to that manager. That manager's always been my motivation to prove her wrong. And then I went to Huntington Bank. I was in their branch network. I started as a banker, became a branch manager within 3 years. I was the youngest branch manager in all of Michigan for quite a while, and just kind of rose through the ranks. And while doing that, I was doing a lot of home equity lending. My team led the entire Meyer network of Huntington Bank in home equity production. So we did a lot of home equity loans. And that's really what got my itch to get into mortgage lending, was doing home equity lending. So I spent 8 years at Huntington, and then have been in Mortgage One almost 5 years. It'll be 5 years in January. But Dan Grewat's my mentor and a fellow MMLA member and advocate for the MMLA, has been very instrumental in getting me into this role and really developing me. So that's my background, and I don't look back on it. I love every step that I've had and every motivating piece that I've had. So
yeah, I think there's, the longer you stay in this business, the more you look back at different moments in your career and you're like, oh, that was a tipping point here, or a tipping point there. Definitely. Yeah. I think with that manager pushing you and saying, you're never going to make it in sales, was definitely a defining moment that you obviously remember. So
it was, and I was 18, like it was something that like stuck with me. And I've always been a very competitive person and don't like anybody telling me I can't do something. So, and, I look for that in my team too, like-minded people like that. That have that drive, that want. And I think as, being a loan officer, you have to have that want to prove everybody wrong. And that drive to be, the best, the top loan officers are those people that are very competitive and people that want to win. So.
Sure. And it also goes to prove how powerful words can be, right? 100%. You think about that, on the flip side, that could have been something very negative for you too, so. It fueled your fire, so I'm glad that it was a positive thing for you. But our words definitely have power.
Yeah, I look back at that as a leader too, and I see, I've kind of changed the way that I lead and I manage my team, and the things that I say, how much of an impact they can have on people, and avoiding conversations like that completely. I would never say somebody can't do something. I coach them up to do what they want to do or figure out what their goal is. So,
yeah, awesome. Well, you're very instrumental in the MMLA, very active. In fact, this past year, you were the Vic Miller Outstanding Member Award winner. Congratulations again on that. The Vic Miller Outstanding Member Award was formerly known as the Outstanding Member Award, and renamed in '97 in honor of Vic Miller, who was an active board member and leader, established in 1988 to recognize outstanding individual service to the association. Commonly referred to as the Volunteer of the Year Award, it is awarded annually to the person who has contributed the most to the success of the MMLA through individual effort, by serving on a committee, board of governors, or a chapter leadership team during the 1-year period ending August 31st. So with that definition, Adam, tell us, obviously you've gotten involved with the MMLA and been a huge, important piece. Tell us why you got involved in what you're doing with the MMLA and why you've been so impactful.
Yeah, I got involved in the MMLA with a little bit of push from Dan Grewatz. He said, it's something I think you could be very influential in and really affecting our industry. And, that was the original push. And then I attended, my first event, and I love that it was, in this role as a production person, we get a lot of engagement with realtor partners and title partners, but we don't get a lot of engagement with our peers, with people like you or Jake or, John Arnold over at Guild. So, the benefit of MMLA that I've had is just being around my peers and seeing what's working and what's not. So that was really impactful in that first meeting. And I was like, okay, this is where I want to be. And so I've really taken that and said, okay, I want to make an impact on our community. I'm very honored to receive the award. I was very surprised when I got the phone call. It's not something that I feel I've done anything special. But the big thing for me is just being a squeaky wheel sometimes and trying to push change. There's a lot of change in our industry. I think that's one of the most consistent things actually in our industry is there's change. And so helping do that through being involved in our local chapter. I started in the local chapter 3 years ago, helping on committees, and then getting involved in the state committees, and next year in the board of directors as well. My opportunity to impact change within our industry and within our organization is super important to me, and being an advocate for those of us that choose to not speak up because we don't like to be vocal, or for those of us that just don't want to have that conversation. I'm very excited to be a part of that, and MMLA has given me that platform to really deliver change and keep things moving within our industry and not staying stagnant. So I know that was kind of a roundabout answer to your question, but
no, I think it was a great answer. And I think we have so much opportunity with the MMLA education wise. I think the things that I know as a loan officer because of my involvement in the MMLA are, leaps and bounds ahead of, a huge portion of our fellow loan officers because they're just not there for those things. And we're learning from government officials of what's going on, or advocating, for proposals that we want to get through or legislation, I should say. So, and then also, we're learning from the top business professionals, like-minded individuals as well. So, I mean, it's there's so much potential for the MMLA.
Well, and when you go to learning about others too, I think that the one thing that I love about the Michigan Mortgage Lenders Association is it's very open. I look back on earlier this year, we had where all of the chapters were invited to sit in on the state board meeting. And I remember in that conversation, I let it slip. Like I'm going to quote myself. Unfortunately, the average age in this room is over 50, and we're not advocating for all of our members. And I instantly was like, oh crap, I put a foot in my mouth when I said that. But it was something that was a lot eye-opening to some people, and a lot of people already acknowledged. So getting training for younger people to get involved is something that we're really going to be pushing, and I'm very excited for. And I love that the MMLA is open to doing that type of thing. And it's very exciting to be a part of this group, and it's very influential in my role, seeing what others are doing, and I've created connections, like yourself, like Jake, with LMCU. One of the great things is we all find somebody that does something better than us, because we can't do everything great. Like construction lending, for example, it's not something that's my forte. It's not my focus. And so ironically, I actually, do refer my construction lending over to you guys at LMCU, because you guys do a great job. That's one of the things that you guys do phenomenally. And for me, that's having that best impact on my client is finding the best option. And without MMLA, I wouldn't have created that connection. So.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, being able to help each other out is a huge thing. Have even ideas, right? Hey, like, I have this situation. Do you think you can help this borrower or whatever? I can't, we don't have anything that we can do,
Yeah.
but maybe you guys have a program or something, in your portfolio that we might not have, and two, it's also about masterminding. I think, we can talk and we can have at these meetings that we come together, and we can mastermind about the best techniques to help our teammates and help ourselves, and to meet with more clients, or to reach more clients. So definitely think that there's a lot of synergy for us, even though we might be competitors, for within the industry, if you will. We're always looking out for each other. And that's been something that I love about the MMLA too. I think if anybody who's involved with the MMLA were to lose their job, they would have one in a heartbeat, somewhere else.
I could call anybody that I've made contacts with, and I'm sure, have that opportunity if something were to happen. But and that's just from those connections and the relationships that I've built. And without being a part of the organization, those wouldn't have been possible. So.
Name your favorite thing over the last year that you were involved in with the MMLA, whether it be, a specific, event or committee or whatever. But, you obviously volunteered a lot of time this year. So we would like to hear, what you were most proud of or had the most fun with, during your great year of giving to the MMLA.
I think the one thing that I'm probably most proud of is, being on the state conference committee for the annual lending conference, just being very involved and helping make some of the decisions there and guiding some people, trying to find speakers, but really it's just being involved in everything. I enjoy, I was on the marketing and membership committee as well, and seeing where, we're lacking and giving ideas on how to increase membership and increase recruitment is something that I'm very passionate about, not only within my role at Mortgage One, but also within the MMLA. So I can't necessarily nitpick one item that has really been my favorite, but being involved has been my favorite. Being able to have the opportunity to make change, like I said at the beginning of this conversation, has been influential to me. And then on the local side, being involved in our events.
Let's talk about your why, Adam. Why do you do what you do? And also give us a little bit about, the Adam Tolley that's not wearing his mortgage hat. Who's the real Adam Tolley?
Yeah, well, the Adam Tolley that's not wearing the hat, if you call this my mortgage hat, is going to be bald, and I prefer the hat. So, no. On the personal side, my why, the reason that I come to work every day is to help make an impact in the world. That sounds very cliche and really, big, but even the smallest things that we do in our everyday life can make an impact in the world. So, I'm very passionate about being involved with different organizations. One of them is the Pediatric Oncology Resource Team at the Helen DeVos Children's Foundation. I had a sibling that passed away. My brother passed away. That's 2024, so 11 years ago. He was 15 to cancer. And so giving back to that organization, I'm on the board or the committee that runs our annual fundraiser. We raised, close to $100,000 last year at that fundraiser. So being involved in that and helping raise money for an organization that helped me is important. And having the platform and honestly the money from this role that we are making, because even though business has been slow, there's still money to be made. So having that money from this role has really helped me give back to that organization as well, and that's important to me. I actually donate $75 from every closing that I do as a salesperson back to that organization, so I'm able to give back. But being in the mortgage industry, my why is homeownership creates generational wealth, and I have that opportunity to impact so many people that don't think they have that opportunity, or really don't see that as an opportunity because they haven't been educated on that. So I'm involved with different organizations throughout the city of Grand Rapids, and also Ottawa County, in educating our community on homeownership and how it is attainable and available to even low income borrowers. So
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing, some of those details with us. I love the fact that you're giving back from each closing to an organization that has so much meaning to you. Sorry, to hear about your brother.
thank you.
And I'm sure that's not easy, every time you talk about it to bring that back up, but it's probably hopefully in some way healing for you to know that you're, like his life meant something for you and you're giving back, to an organization that helped him and helped your family.
It does.
So
yeah, it's awesome to be able to do that. And, to be honest, if you actually, the other part of that, and this isn't the reason that I do it, but if you actually look at statistics, our largest home buyer group is the millennial generation. And millennials look for, charitable giving as part of their decision-making process. So, people that are doing that, that's going to create relationships. And so while that's not a reason that I do that, it is actually a good byproduct of doing that. Is it does create business for me as well. So if I give a tip to, loan officers, it's a great opportunity to show what you're passionate about, be a person, and, be you, and gives you an opportunity to build relationships off that too. And it's not only that, the reason that I am selecting who we're donating to is because it's something that it creates that personal connection for me,
yeah.
With my clients and the people that I work with. So, I think that personal connection is influential and very important throughout the mortgage process, because for a lot of people, it is the most stressful thing that they can do in their life is buy a house. And so if I can create that connection with people, it makes it so much easier for them to be settled and feel confident in the relationship that we have to get to the closing table.
Absolutely. So as we move from your why, thanks for sharing that, and you did touch on the home ownership piece, right? And how it creates generational wealth and all that kind of stuff, right? So let's talk about mortgages. We're two salespeople here. We're on the front lines, taking landmines and writing loans. And, we discussed it a little bit before we started recording here. And you told me that you just had your statistically the best month of your career, right?
Yeah.
Closing wise, which is awesome. And in a market that we are in right now, that's an amazing thing to hear. And those success stories happen. And it's not because of just being, existing, right? You put in a lot of hard work to that. So can you tell us a little bit about what you've been focusing on, how you got to, obtain your highest volume month, and really what's driven the sales success in a down market?
Yeah, so, it's going to sound cliche again. I've used that word a few times, but going back to basics. So I had a new team member join my team in June, and it's kind of a breath of fresh air for me, because I'm like, okay, well, I'm teaching him from the beginning as, no mortgage industry background. He comes from fire and EMS. So not only am I teaching him the sales part of things, but I'm also teaching him, the mortgage side of things and how to be confident. But, going back to basics of sales, create relationships, be on the ground calling people. I love technology and the ability that we have to maximize our business with technology. But I think that people rely on technology too much and they're not creating personal relationships. And that's where you start to see things fall off or see things be inconsistent. So, when Justin started on my team, I was like, hey, you need to be calling realtors. Well, I can't tell him to be doing that stuff without doing it myself as a good leader. And so leading by example and making those phone calls and doing those emails, sitting down with realtors for coffee and lunch, and, trying to educate them on different things, offering classes to them for continuing education. That's something that I've been very involved in the last few months too. And all of that very, very basic stuff where you're literally just sitting down for coffee and asking for business creates business. So you get leads out of that if you're building a relationship, not selling. So that's my best advice for people is when you sit down for coffee with a realtor, a title person or insurance person, to try to build a referral network, financial advisors, tax attorneys. This is all stuff that we all know. If you're in the industry as a salesperson, these are all, points of contact that we know we should be reaching out to, but do it. and don't sell a product, sell yourself, sell the relationship that you have, sell your expertise and what you do well. And that's the easiest way, in my opinion, to be successful. And that's what I've done and over the last few months, and it led to my biggest month of my career last month. So I also go
Yeah.
to every single closing in person if I can. If I give any advice to LOs that has a huge impact, bring something small, a gift to closing, and you'll have the title company be like, I haven't had a lender at closing in 2 years. I had somebody say that last week, which is crazy. So when you don't have loan officers going into closing, that's the most exciting part of the transaction. You're at the closing table, the buyer's happy, even if you had roadblocks and speed bumps, within the transaction that you may think the buyer was frustrated with you about. They're happy there. They're going to remember that part because you're there. You got them to the closing table. They're very excited. Like, why would you not want to be there to celebrate? That's when they're happy. That's when they're excited. That's when your easiest opportunity is to ask for referrals too. And again, that's back to basics. That's sales 101. And it's just creating relationships. But one of the things that I do is every 6 months, my clients get either a handwritten letter, a text message, or a phone call from me. Something that's out of the ordinary, something different that keeps me, front of mind. That again is a very small thing. It's not a difficult thing to do.
Yep. Yeah, I love that. Personal touches always go a long way. One of my things was, and I'll say I'm not perfect. I get away from things at times. Consistency is always the biggest key in our business. But birthday phone calls have been a big thing for me, is trying to call people on their birthday. Even if I don't get a hold of them, I just call them and I say, hey, happy birthday. Would love to reconnect sometime if you're able to, but enjoy your day and we'll connect in the future. And man, you'd be surprised at how many people actually answer the phone on their birthday and are super surprised to hear from you. And they're like, why is my mortgage loan officer calling me on my birthday? And then the people that do answer start to like expect that phone call too. Like I've called a few people, and they've been like, oh yeah, here's my phone call, my birthday phone call from my loan officer, and again, it's a great way to reconnect with clients in a different way instead of just sending out an auto email.
Well, the thing that I love about that is, again, it's a very basic thing. We before the call we talked about not giving up a secret sauce. Well, there's not a secret sauce. It's just being a human. In a world where people want human interaction, despite what you read in the media or even in some statistics where you see that people want everything online or they still want to have that connection. We are human. We crave connection, and it's just part of our DNA. And we're going to continue craving that until we're turned into AI robots. So,
for sure.
But for me, it is. There's no secret sauce. It's just go back to basics. Do the little things, the nitty gritty things, because those are the things that work.
Yeah, absolutely. I can 1000% agree with that. As we were talking about, I think my success, I've been doing, mortgages for a little over 12 years now. And truthfully, we got so busy for so long that you get away from quote unquote the basics sometimes. Yep. And that was when the faucet was turned off and rates shot up, and there was no more refinances happening. Things got figured out real quick, right? Like you needed to start realizing how important each relationship was. And I think the loan officers that have been successful have been able to realize that, like, people use you. Yeah. Now, one thing, with Mortgage One, I know in the past you guys have kind of been a leader, if you will, in the MSHDA loan product, right? And that's kind of something that you guys have said, hey, we know this in and out. Do you continue to say, hey, like MSHDA is my bread and butter, or do you find that you're kind of, doing a little bit more, a little bit different stuff than that? What do you think?
So yeah, it's funny. So Rick Holcomb, who's the president of Mortgage One, was in our office on Tuesday, and about 30% of our business is home ready, home possible, so low down conventional, and MISHDA business. And the benefit of that business, and the reason that we love focusing on that is if we do that really, 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 really well. We're going to get return business because a lot of those people are first time buyers that have never purchased a home that are going to purchase a home in the next 7 years because statistically somebody buys a house every 7 years if they're a homeowner. So you're getting return business out of that. You're getting referrals out of that. If you can do the really hard stuff, which is that, low down payment borrower, the MISHDA borrower, those are some of the toughest deals that we can do sometimes. If you can do those well and make it seamless, you're going to get referrals for those people. That is the largest buying group buying houses right now, that first time home buyer. So,
yep, for sure.
So yeah, I mean, while it may not be, I wouldn't necessarily call it our bread and butter. It is probably a big part of our business, and it's something that we do really, really well and we focus on. But we do everything, which I love. So we have the opportunity to help with anything, and but helping those first time home buyers is very important to us. And the other part of MISHDA is there's not a lot of money to be made on MISHDA loans, and a lot of people don't realize that. That's why a lot of lenders don't offer it. A lot of deals we make very, very little on from the company standpoint, and the benefit of that is, we might make a little now, but we're getting return refi business, we're getting referral business out of that. So,
yep,
money isn't everything.
For sure. And the thing about it, like, and not to look at it just from a money sense, but if you catch these early gen, borrowers, right? First time home buyers, you're catching them much earlier in the pipeline, right? And then, they're going to refinance, or they're going to buy a new house, or they're going to do both of those things in 7 years, so it really is ultimately, it's the long game that we're playing, right? We want to be their loan officer for life and not just their loan officer for one transaction. Definitely more than just a transaction, for sure.
It is.
Yep. Well, I've appreciated the time you spent with us. Before we end the podcast here, I always ask everyone that's on to give us one positive thing or one spin or one great thing that you think is happening in the mortgage industry right now.
I think one thing that is happening that I see is we are seeing more young people get into the industry. That's a positive for me. I like to see people interested in our industry and growing because that average age is pretty high on the production side of things. So we're starting to see more and more people see this as an opportunity. And I think that's super exciting. I would encourage anybody that's looking to buy or to get into production or even the operation side of things to reach out to us and have a conversation, if it's something you're interested in, because even with the ebbs and flows of things, if you work for a good company that has a good base and it has their head on their shoulders really, really well, those ebbs and flows don't hit you nearly as hard. So that's something that I'm loving seeing is the younger people in our industry getting more involved and starting to become more apparent. So
certainly. And like Adam said, anyone who's interested in becoming a loan officer or being interested in being in the mortgage industry, we'd love for you to reach out to one of us. So please contact us, contact the MMLA. We'd love people to get more involved. If you're not, this is why we're doing this podcast, is to get the word out and to share about our membership, but to also share so that we can find those people that might be like, hey, what's my next step in my career? The MMLA hopefully will be that if you're not involved. So we'd love to hear from you. Thanks for listening to the MMLA Connect podcast today. And Adam, thanks again for taking your time and sharing with us.
Hey, thanks for having me, Steve. Very excited to be here, and I really appreciate everything you do for the MMLA as well. So,
likewise. Thanks.
Yeah,
have a good one.